Hi, and thank you for joining us today on our first of 5 webinars in our series titled Organizational Immunity. My name is Dee Coca, the Chief Evaluation Officer with Sterling International. This first session is titled Leading Through Uncertainties. I would like to start by introducing someone who is not only my mentor, but also a very dear friend, Ala El-Hawagi. Ala serves as an organizational systems strategist, consultant, executive coach, and organizational development professional. He is the chairman of the board of Sterling International, headquartered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and the former CEO of Innovative Group, headquartered in Pompano Beach, Florida. Hi, Ala. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Dee. Glad to be here.
We're going to start by having our discussion, and then we'll take some answers from our audience. This 5-part series is titled Organizational Immunity. Why don't we start by you telling us what this means to you and how this can translate into actionable items organizations can actually use in real time to address some of today's issues?
Thank you, Dee, for the question. Actually, let me start by reflecting on something that I thought about when we went live. And I want all the viewers to reflect on this. A virus that you can't see with your naked eye has quarantined 150 nations in a snap. If this is not a humbling experience, I really don't know what is. Well, the series we are talking about here is it was important that we talk to our audience and to talk to everyone today about the circumstances that we are going through right now. There is no doubt that the challenges that we are facing today have humbled most organizations, have impacted most businesses, have joined societies globally to think collaboratively and to do the unthinkable, which is, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? What are some of the things we need to focus on in order to ensure mobility for what we are doing? So we designed these webinars, as you mentioned, as 5 webinars. The first one, obviously, we're going to focus on the role of the leader. What do leaders need to do at the time of crisis? And in there, we're going to address some things about communication channels and how does this look like. I'm going to introduce a concept that is an older concept that we all know. Particularly during war times, we call it the command center. You know, in Florida, we get hurricanes all the time, and those hurricanes impact us. And we create those command centers through which they are able to give comfort and to help people navigate through the difficult times. In webinar number 2, and it may not come in the same exact order, we're going to talk about how to reinvent yourself, how to reinvent your business, how to tool up for the new state that organizations are facing today. And in there, I'm going to focus on cost optimization and efficiency. You notice I didn't say cost minimization. It's cost optimization. What can we do to balance between the need of the organization and the need of the individuals and the professionals who work in that organization? In webinar number 3, we're going to talk about change techniques. Call it change, call it possibly transformation through the time that we are going through right now. This was going to be one of the things that I'm going to shed some light on, practical solutions for what we need to do today in order to survive what we are encountering. And webinar number 4, we're going to address something that is very, very critical and dear to my heart, which is organizational culture. What do we do as an organization in order to ensure that our culture is resilient, is delivering what we need it to deliver, and more importantly, it can take us through these challenging times. And finally, and collecting all these together is really about the organizational immunity, which is helping our organization to be a systems-based organization. And this is from our research, our studies, and my work with clients around the globe. I found that this is the only way that we can ensure that organizations sustain its goodness over time and continue to develop, grow, and become prosperous.
Okay, that's fantastic. So do you want to start now by breaking down what we can do to make some actionable items for these organizations to start addressing their situations
Well, I think there are, as we go through the webinar, there will be a lot of things that I'm going to be discussing on actionable items that leaders need to take. We're going to talk about what communications that needs to be addressed and when. In particular, who needs to say what when. We're going to be talking about what are some of the very simple yet practical and impactful strategies that we can build around. So if we want to start, maybe we can start with the communication piece. Now, what is the role of the communication when it comes to a time like the one we are facing right now? There's no doubt that the role of communication has always been a huge role. At peace times, and definitely it intensifies at crisis times like the one we are facing right now. So this is one of the, as I always say, one of the most impactful leadership tools at the disposal of every leader around the globe. So clear communication needs to reach the front line. And this is really the important element that I need to emphasize today. It is not enough that the executive of the organization or the executive teams of the organization are aware of what's happening and what needs to happen. It is very critical that we take this and drive this communication all the way to the front line, because it is, people are confused, people are fearful, people are not at ease, they are facing chaotic situation and they don't know what to do. So if I may begin, I can talk about a few things that we can keep in mind when it comes to communication. These are kind of general tips that will allow people at least to start thinking in that direction. Probably the first point would be, did we develop protocols for the communication? Or is there a protocol that everybody is aware of? Who is sending the message? Is the message centralized or not centralized? You know, we know through our research and leadership and organizational development that decentralization is the way to go. At the time of crisis, we need to reverse it. We need to go to centralized organization. We need to be focusing on one message to everyone that is coming from a centralized location, and it is repeated and frequent. So what is the protocol? Has it been written? If not, it needs to be done almost immediately. What do they include? The message that are being sent. Okay, is it just about the business, or it's about the people who are conducting the business? Is it all about what we need to do in reference to work, or is it about telling people, I'm with you, I understand, I feel you, I feel your pain, etc., etc. Now, how frequent is that message? Obviously, it depends on the organization and how you want to do it. Sometimes it needs to happen twice a day. It needs to happen daily, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever the case might be. As people getting comfortable and moving forward with whatever they are doing, I believe this will be spaced out a little more. Another tip is, who do they address? Okay, are we addressing only our folks in the organization? Or are we addressing the rest of the stakeholders? Are we addressing our business partners, the folks that help us become who we are? Are we addressing our customers, the one that stood by us through the thick and thin? What are alternatives? Okay, every one of us has one of these. Okay, what if tomorrow this stops? What if tomorrow the telecommunication, for whatever reason, is not working? Do we have alternatives to send the messages? And we need to be thinking about that. More importantly, and really what I like to focus on is how genuine is the message? Okay, people at tough times, they like straight talk. They don't like political talk. They don't like a talk that is not genuine. So how genuine is the message? It is very, very important. And we all heard the old saying, is not what you say, but how you say it, how you come across, how you really entertain the feelings, the thoughts that are in the minds and hearts of your employees and your customers. Corporate citizenship, this is a big piece that comes under communication. And I wish that every organization to think very seriously about the role they play in their society, in their locality, and what are some of the things that they need to focus on so they can connect to their society more now than ever.
Now, if I can go back on the point that you had brought up regarding the ensuring communication goes to the front line, how are you going to ensure that the message is clear and that is actually understood by the front line? That seems to be the issue in the organizations that I've been working with, is that along the channels, communication falls off the rails, and the ones that are actually keeping businesses alive right now are the frontline people going in every day in times that are concerning for their safety and still the uncertainty of their financial futures regarding these positions. What do we do for them, and how do we communicate that? Make sure that
I think one of the things we need to focus on is how are we ensuring that the message is cascaded down? And this is part of the protocol that you're going to be writing upfront to say, here is what the CEO is going to say, and here is what the chiefs are going to cascade it within 1 hour. Here is how they're going to cascade it to the layer below and the layer below. There got to be a system in place to ensure that the person who's doing the work in the front line, day in and day out, get the message straight. Sometimes, and I've seen it in some organizations here in Florida, where the CEO directly communicate with every single person in the organization directly. So whatever way you can use, whatever is suitable for your organization, be absolutely sure that the front line get the message as soon as it comes out.
And just the last comment regarding that, it's also that they get the message coming down, but that it's being heard on what they need to work its way back up the channels. What are they needing? What tools are missing? Right now, we got a shortage of a lot of things to ensure their safety, and just, I think in a lot of things, even just in shipments of normal work office products, things are not there for them. What do we need to do to make sure they feel heard?
Well, as we talk about downward communication, we need to be addressing the upward communication as a part of that protocol. We need to create those channels for employees where they can connect with their supervisors or team leaders, and those team leaders have a mechanism to connect with their managers. I think when we talk about upward communication, that's the one that needs to be layered, but it needs to be done in a way that it done is promptly. And the best thing is, can the front line or the layer above the front line do something about what the front line needs? It doesn't have to bubble up all the way to the top. And this is why we have positions, we have layers in the organization so they can take care of things at the most front line possible to ensure that everybody gets what they need promptly.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Now, how do you see people reacting to this current circumstance?
Well, I think there are several models that really address this, and my most models that I reach to are Dr. Bim Bissell about change, Abraham Maslow about hierarchy of human needs, and Dr. Daniel Goleman for emotional intelligence. People have a very high level of anxiety. And if we don't understand that, then something big is missing. And how can we address that level of anxiety? So I kind of mixed all this together, and I came up with what I call the FAST model. And the FAST model is really very simple. It begins with F for the fear. So how does the fear segment of this looks like? People complain frequently. People get mad easily. People spread negativity unintentionally, all kinds of things. People fast forward messages that they get from others without really thinking about what they are forwarding. And this is really understood. Now, the awareness phase stands for the A, which people start getting it. Okay, they go from the shock and denial to, okay, it is happening. It is around us. It is no longer what if, it is here. Okay, so they start evaluating the information they receive. They start identifying with their emotions. They start thinking about those emotions and what to do about them. And then there comes the ST, which is the strength zone, as I call it. And the strength zone is when people have a good grip of the current events. That's when they start empathizing rather than sympathizing. That's when they start connecting with others. That's when they start calling for the support system. That's when they start adapt to the new norm. And that's when they start dealing with the issues objectively. So that's how I see the cycle of where people go and what they go through during any crisis whatsoever, whether it's the coronavirus or the Ebola before that, or whatever came before that, and so forth.
Now, when we're talking about the fear zone, that's talking about, really, it's about change management. And with change management come stages of grief. And I know a lot of people, everyone goes through it at their own pace. What do you do when you've got an entire workforce at all varying stages of this, when you really need them to get to the next phase of things, when they're ready to start accepting the situation and moving forward with making decisions and getting an action in place, but they're stuck?
For leaders, stay cool. Understand that this is normal. Understand that people go through change differently, that people accept change differently. Don't get mad. Okay, don't get furious. Try to support. And yeah, sometimes you're going to say the message once, twice, thrice, and sometimes up to 10 times. Research shows that an average person in normal circumstances, remind you, takes an average of 10 times to hear the message, to resonate with it. So some people will get it in a flash. Some people will get a repeated message with it. More importantly, try to work through the challenges at hand through supporting the workforce. Understand that the workforce will get to it as fast as they can, and whatever help you can give them, and I'm going to get to that when I start talking about, so what is the role of the leader? What do leaders really need to do in these circumstances? It may shed some light on some strategies that can help leaders move with their teams forward.
Okay. When you reference leading through uncertainties, who are you identifying as being leaders?
Well, before I start defining the who, I would like to begin with the where. Where do I exemplify my leadership? A good place to start is family. Start with your family, okay? This is the closest members of your team. These are folks that have a level of anxiety as much as the folks in your organization. So you need to start the leadership in your family. Now, who I mean by a leader, there are literally hundreds of thousands of articles that have been written about leadership, and researches after researches that talks about leadership. Actually, a leader, a very simple definition, is someone you choose to follow. So the choice is yours. You choose to follow that person, whether that person is your actual manager or another manager in the organization, or your neighbor, or a relative, or a sibling. It doesn't matter who. Someone you choose to follow. And what I want to distinguish very quickly, the difference between leadership and management. And I think most of our viewers know the clear difference between the two. Leadership is a choice. Leadership is a mindset. Leadership is something that you determine that you want to lead. Leadership that you find yourself sometimes in the middle of it, whether you accept it or not, whether you are okay with it or not, but you are called upon to be a leader. So the person that is doing that needs to equip themselves with ability to guide, ability to coach, and find the serenity and the peace in doing so. Well, I am really hoping that your manager is a leader, that your executive is a leader, but that's may not be the case, by the way. And our research shows that some of the managers and the executives and the team leaders have been in position because of other reasons. Maybe their technical ability, maybe whatever they bring into the organization. This is the time that needs leadership. So, but by giving people opportunity to kind of reach out to whomever they feel comfortable with, to look up for that leadership, I think that would be the way to go.
And I like that point that you're bringing up, that family is also the place to start with the leadership, because I believe that we are who we are wherever we are. And it's important to always do your best to be your best. And I think it's important to start with our families. And when we're questioning what we're doing in leadership and business, we got to remember how we lead by example for our families. And we maintain the patience and the understanding that they need in the workplace as well. I think that's going to be a big part, a big piece that everyone's going to have to remember as we try to navigate people through this time of crisis. Okay, how do you summarize the role of leadership during this time?
Okay, I can summarize it by one sentence that I can delineate a little bit. Stay present and lead with agility and humility. What we are going through now is extremely humbling. It gets us to the foundation of one reaching within our souls to find who we are first, and being agile enough and adaptable enough to the circumstances around us, but more importantly, stay in the now, stay present. Don't stay in the future. Don't stay in the past. Be in the present. So the way I look at it is the leader, the coach, the leader, the communicator, the leader, the listener, the leader, the learner, the leader, the emotionally intelligent, and the list goes on and on and on.
Okay, so those are some good words that I've heard often, but I need you to explain to me exactly what can be done on a daily basis. How do we take what you've just explained and bring it into real everyday terms? How do we apply it?
Okay, before I get into how the application will happen, I need to make a couple of disclaimers.
Okay.
Disclaimer number one, this is not a prescription. So this is not a 5-step how I got to the top, and you go and you take it and you apply it and you say, okay, I'm in step 1 and I'm in step 2. This is not it at all. These are guidelines that I concluded after all my research and after all my hands work with organizations. The other disclaimer that's really important, that the answers most of the time are not with the leaders. The answers is with the team, is with the front line. So make absolutely sure as you're testing some of these guidelines that you are not doing that in isolation. You are doing it as a team. You are connecting with others. You are really reaching out to people. One thing that most of my students around the globe, and I have nearly 20,000 of those in almost 15, 16 countries, heard me say this, that nothing I teach, I did not try. So anything I'm going to share with you today, not a theory in a book, is something that has been tried, has been working, has been validated, has been producing fantastic results at peace times and at crisis times. So with that in mind, let me get into my handy dandy list of what leaders really need to do today. Again, these are guidelines, okay, and I hope everybody look at it as such. Here's my number one. Okay, you need to be able to make the leader shift. And while I'm using Joel Barker expression, let me explain what I mean by that in this particular context. We are not at a time of peace. We are at a time of fight or flight mode, which means I need to move into centralization mode. If I have several offices, several departments, I have several branches in different countries, this is the time where centralization and the message in the communication coming from the leader need to be centralized. Everyone, everywhere in your organization need to hear the same message at the same time, delivered in the same way. So how adaptable am I to get from decentralization mode to centralization mode and convey the message that I want. The second part, which I have alluded to briefly before, the command center. I hope by now every organization has established a command center like we do during the hurricanes in Florida, like we do during wars. That command center needs to have some members from the organization. They don't have to be the top members of the organization, but some sort of a team that we put together, a coalition that we put together that possess the knowledge, skills, abilities that we need, that determine the frequency of the message that we are delivering to others, that consult together on the following steps and how well we've done in the previous steps. And those can be meeting via technology like we are doing right now, or via text messaging, whatever the case might be, where those decisions can be made very quickly. Which takes me to the third point. Set the new dashboard. Every organization has a dashboard. That dashboard has priorities. It has different KPIs, key performance indicators. It has different deliverables. You need to set the new dashboard. How will the new dashboard, based on what we're experiencing today and reference to where people are, how available they can be, needs to look like? Okay, develop it quickly in the command center, communicate it quickly, and then monitor it. Okay, decide with the speed. When it comes to decision making, we're always struggling with two things: speed of the decision and precision of the decision. I'm afraid at times like this, speed will come over precision. Yes, if the decision is reasonably well, go for it. Decide, move on, and test it, learn from it, and quantify what you need to fix, and fix quickly. The fifth is kind of a straightforward one: adapt quickly. What does this really mean? Leaders need to be on the look for the updated information. And I mean updated information, up to the hour information that is publicized globally through the different channels that you receive from your locality as far as what's going on in the pulse of your community. You need to take this and adopt your message frequently based on whatever information you receive. Point number 6, much easier said than done sometimes, because everybody is under stress, including the leaders, of course. Adopt a positive attitude. See the good in everything that's around you and coach the rest. That is probably one of the best suggestions I can give to leaders today. Nothing is going to be moving perfect anytime soon. But with our collaboration and our changing of mindset and our connectivity, we can reach there much quicker than people think. In fact, the silver lining is all around us. We just need to find it. Okay, so handling this with a positive attitude has a lot to do with the outcome of that. Become a feedback provider, on-the-spot feedback. Okay, tackling behaviors, tackling actions, continue, start to stop. Here are the things I need to continue doing because they gave us whatever we're looking for. Stop doing. We don't see any value for these messages, and whatever we've done, start doing as an alternative. So that feedback needs to be continuous. It needs to be continuous horizontally and vertically along the organization. Number 8, own your actions. Okay. This is not the time for pride. This is the time for humility. This is the time to say, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I need help. I need someone to come in. You know, one of the people I listen to every night here in CNN, who I start looking closely at his leadership style, is the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is someone who has a very fantastic sense of humor. And even though his estate now is the epidemic center for the entire nation, not even the world, but he is not taking it lightly. He's a very focused leader. But I see him night after night come on TV and say, I need help. I need the federal government to help me. I need healthcare professionals. And guess what? A couple of days ago, 20,000 healthcare professionals from less devastated states have accepted the call. They are moving forward to New York. It is okay as a leader to say, I need help. I am unable to. This is not the time to say, I am it and you ought to follow what I say. Absolutely not. So own your actions. Point number 9, get engaged and engage others and cheerlead. This is the time that I encourage every person to become the CEO of their team. And by that, I mean Chief Empathy Officer, not Executive Officer, Chief Empathy Officer. Empathize, understand where people are, get close to them, understand that if I don't deal with the current emotions and frustrations and anxiety, there is absolutely no room for me to move forward with this team. Number 10 and last, and this is really a big footnote, take care of yourself. This is hard stuff. This is not something that we have drills on. This is something that we didn't experience since the early 1900s. The last time we had something like this was in 1917. So over a century ago. This is difficult, but here's the good news. It is coming at a time where we have lots of tools in our toolbox that the folks in 1917 did not have. I trust that this, what I call my top 10 list items, can serve as a guideline, as a practical solutions on the ground. Take them, toy with them, discuss them in your command center, think about them, customize them to your organization, customize them to your team, customize them to your industry, customize them to your locality. Wherever you are, whatever you do, please consider these just guidelines. They are not prescription by any means that should fit everybody on earth who is in a leadership position.
I think something about this list that really resonates with me is that you're speaking about the workforce. That's what this is focused on, is taking care of the leadership as well as all the members of the workforce. You haven't mentioned anything about the products. And I think that's what's really important right now, because the people are what matter, the most valuable resource that we have in any organization. And the points that you've brought to light here are addressing the needs of not just ourselves, but for our teams. And it's important to put that first above all else.
I'll tell you, I've been delivering leadership programs and attending leadership seminars probably for the last 3 decades. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in conferences and I have been in situations where you hear chiefs and people at the top of the organizations always talk about how the human capital is the real asset of our organization. I think this is the time to test that. Okay, if this is the real asset of your organization, not your computers, not your technology, not your buildings, not whatever you are doing, what are you going to do to protect that asset and to make absolutely positively sure that you can navigate with that asset to get them to the promised land? One more time, people are furious. People have a high level of anxiety, whether they show it or not. People are curious about what's next. Their livelihood is on the line. They hear rumors, and where rumors come from? Lack of information. So how do we put these rumors to bed? Increase information flow. Make absolutely sure that there is a frequent line of messages that come day in and day out to help people feel the serenity and the connectivity. And please stay away from sending 2- and 3-page email. No one reads that stuff these days. You know, when I get that, thank goodness for the delete button. Delete, it's gone. You know, I don't have to read a wisdom in 3 pages. Tell me what you want to tell me very quickly so I can take something, 1, to give me comfort, and 2, to move on to the next level. And continue giving these frequent messages, because this is really what's going to help me get to where I need to go.
Bob Chapman, the famous CEO, said, "We measure success by the way we touch the lives of people." I can't agree more with this. But what does that mean for us today, and how can we apply it now?
Well, let me first of all, you and I may know Bob Chapman, but not everybody in the world knows who is Bob Chapman. Bob Chapman is a business guru. He has been selected in recent business magazines articles as the third best CEO in the world. And I'm not going to reveal who's number one and who's number two for now, but he's the third best. And this Bob has took his company from a startup over 3 decades ago to today $2.5 billion global manufacturing empire with 11,000 employees. He made a statement that crises give business leaders the opportunity to lead from the front. This is the time where every leader needs to be leading from the front. I talked before a lot about how the leader is in the back, pushing forward their teams and so forth. This is the time where the leader must be visible, okay? But it shocks me, Dee, that some of the calls and messages I get from some of my students tell me, believe it or not, we've been 3 months in this crisis and I'm yet to hear from the CEO of the organization. Mm-hmm. It's like, what? Where do they live? Are they even aware of what's going on? So my message to all leaders today is be visible. Be visible. Your voice must be heard. Okay. I was watching the other day a movie, King's Speech. It's a British movie, and I hardly watch British movies. But anyway, and it was about the king who had to give a speech to the kingdom at that time, and he had to go and hire someone to help him give that speech. So your voice, Mr. and Mrs. Leader and Ms. Leaders, have to be heard. You personally have to be visible. Your voice must be heard. You cannot delegate that. This is not something you can delegate. This is something that you must do. Even though this panic is terrible, it is temporary by nature. And I'm very optimistic that very shortly we'll be able to go back to our normal lives and do our normal jobs and so forth. But your credibility is not. Your credibility as a leader is on the line during crisis. And if you handle that change, if you handle that crisis well, I can assure you that your teams, your organization, your people will follow you anywhere you go after that. If you handle this poorly, rest assured that the first opportunity they're going to jump ship, they're going to jump ship. So be visible, be heard, your voice, that is, and remember that your credibility is on the line. The last point is the business future success depends greatly on how we can handle the crisis at hand. So again, there is a huge silver lining in everything. And here's an example. You're part of Sterling International, and you know that 3 weeks ago, we've done everything on the ground. And it took us the last 3 weeks to totally move our business online. If it wasn't for the hard work of all the members of Sterling International, this would never happen. Yeah, I may be the chairman of the board, but when it comes to technology, I'm a dinosaur. I'm a user. I'm only a user. But I have an amazing team who is very capable, who has that vision, who has pushed us to do what we are doing today. And thank goodness, you surround yourself with people like the one we have at Sterling International. My message to all leaders at this point is, this is the time that you can go back and re-engineer your support system. Look at your support system. Okay, this is in a way your board of directors. This is the board that work with you, whether in the business side or at the personal side. These are the go-to people. Okay, what kind of people do you have? What kind of conversations do you conduct? What kind of voices do you listen to, et cetera, et cetera. So this is my take of Bob Chapman, and this is my take of Andrew Cuomo. This is my take of every leader that have risen to the level of leadership. And I encourage all viewers in this webinar is to look for the Bobs in their locality. There are tons of examples that I watch and I listen to every day that are profound examples of exemplary leadership. So those are tons. I share some of what I see here at home in the United States, but there are examples in every nation. There are examples that we watch in the news every day. So reach your locality, use your technology effectively so you can learn what's happening around the globe. There are lots of techniques. There is lots of knowledge, lots of tools that are at your disposal. Use them effectively, and you're going to find some amazing results that come out of that. My suspicion, D, is some organization, because of this crisis, are going to go much higher. Some organizations are not born yet, but they will be born because of these crises. Some organizations will be very successful in transforming their organization into something stronger and more sustainable. And unfortunately, like the case in everything, some organizations will go under. So which type of organization do you picture yourself to be? That's the picture that you need to convey to everyone. That is the image that you need to work on in your message. That's what you're trying to get everyone in your organization and around you to connect with and understand.
The agility is critical, and that's what you demonstrated with this team and being able to do everything with Sterling International. I think something else I'd like to emphasize too is that it's important for everyone who's listening to remember that not everyone has all the answers. Nobody has them. And pretending that you do is the quickest way to lose credibility. You need to get a team around you of people that you trust, and the answers come, whether you like them or not, they're going to be honest with you. And I think that's really important, to have a solid team that you can collaborate with honestly and be willing to listen to the feedback so that you can move in the right direction. Okay, let's take some questions now over from our audience. You ready?
I'm here.
Okay. You were talking about centralization and decentralization in communication. So which way is better in the current circumstances?
Definitely centralization. Definitely centralization. If you are a company with multiple offices, multiple departments, or even multiple subsidiaries in different countries, this is the time that you really take the centralization mode. Particularly in the communication. Remember, we talked about the command center, and the command center is centralized. This is where the protocols are being drafted. This is where the message comes out, and you need to ensure unification of message. This is not time for interpretation. Well, I thought you meant this. I thought you meant that. No, you want one message at one time, going to everyone, and then the teams at different levels of the organization, with the help of the command center, answer questions, interpret whatever is not clear, and take that feedback, bring it back to the command center so that the next message is going to be clearer and so forth.
Okay. Our next question here. I believe that the world before COVID-19 will be totally different after the pandemic. How the communities, businesses, organizations, and leadership will look like in terms of business models?
I can assure you that there will be a lot of articles written about this. In fact, some of them already came out from Harvard Business Review. I think we're gonna start seeing more of decentralization than before. Okay, to go back to why decentralization is more effective. We're going to see leaders rely more on technology, on sending messages. We're going to see leaders focus more on teams and building that new dashboard that I talked about, and how to convey the content of that dashboard to everyone. We're going to see some new ways of monitoring the results of those dashboards. But not to jump ship here to webinar 5, I trust that the new organization is going to be a systemic organization. This is not new. This has been in the works for decades now, but we're going to see more and more people relying on systemic approach with a big agility piece built into it.
Okay, so as the first question you were talking about centralizing, and then the second question we're talking about decentralizing. I just want to clarify, you're speaking in centralizing regarding communications, but decentralizing in regards to operations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And right now, communication is the source for operation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's going to be centralized partially till we go over what we're going over, and we go back to our decentralized teams, departments, subsidiaries, et cetera,
when things start to normalize is what you're saying. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, our next question here is, how do you measure the impact of the actions the organization is taking to identify what is working and what is not working given such critical situations where things are changing on a daily basis almost?
Well, it takes me back to what I suggested earlier. Again, the command center. And I don't want to really put a lot of emphasis on that, but it is very critical. Who did you put in that command center, and the kind of knowledge, skills, and abilities that they have of analytics, of synthesis, of all kinds of information and data that we get, how we collect this data, how we validate that data. So I think I will suggest to all organizations, in matter of fact, is to cherish this data, collect it, validate it, tabulate it, look at it. But it needs to have a real-time analysis. This is not the time where we're going to take, apply this model and see what's going to come out of it as a trend. This is, you are thinking on your feet, you are moving forward. There's a lot of agility here. And what can I do with data collected almost on a daily basis to modify my following actions, whether that the following day, the following week, etc.
Okay. Next question here. You said, be straight, say it like it is. How do you deliver bad news such as downsizing?
Well, I hope that we can address that in the next webinar, but here is a quick preview. Why downsizing? I can answer that question because it is the easiest decision for the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Downsize. Okay, so we have 100 people, make them 80. That's the easiest way. But what we are talking about again is not minimization. We're talking about optimization. Okay. Have you looked at what the organization is doing and what can be done in order to ensure sustainability of the goods that are being delivered right now? Has this exercise been done? My suspicion is most organizations that are downsizing, I can assure you that this decision was taken somewhere in a boardroom because of, okay, we need to get rid of 20%. When the rumors started back in January about this virus, and it intensified by the end of January, I already have some people sending me messages asking the same question. Wait a minute, we've just started. No one has stayed home yet. Nothing has happened. The unfortunate part, some leaders take this opportunity to get rid of the dead wood that they had to get rid of before.
Yeah.
And here's my message. And I'm not debating the validity business-wise of downsizing, but I'm saying this. Be very careful with the actions you take during crisis, because it is not even for the people that you're going to get rid of, but for those in the organization that are left behind watching what you are doing with their colleagues. Mm-hmm. So this is really a fine line that we need to be walking, and a lot of exercises need to take place first before we get into the downsizing. But downsizing is bad news, like any other bad news. When someone appears on TV and say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to have deaths in this country that exceed X number of people," this is very bad news, but it's a fact. but it's a fact. I would rather have factual bad news than no news, or good news while actually it's bad. So downsizing, like anything else, my suggestion is study it well, make absolutely sure that this is the right route that you put for yourself. Something you said earlier, Dee, that involve people in the decision. Well, you remember Herbert Kelleher, which is really the famous story that everybody knows about that airline, right? 35 years ago, when they had to download their airplanes, they had only 4 airplanes and sell one because they had a lot of litigation to worry about. It was automatically, everybody told Herb, bless his soul now, that you need to get rid of 20% of your people. That's the natural thing to do because you only are servicing 3 airplanes. He did something, I felt it was profound because that was a crisis, economic crisis for that organization that they were going through. He took that decision and went to the people, the 1,000 employees, and said, here is where we are. Here is what I'm being advised by the chief financial officer and the board. You have 30 days, come up with a solution. And the solution that Southwest Airlines has come up with has made them on the top of the airline industry, taken their 1,000 employees to nearly 50,000 employees, and from 5 destinations to over 80 destinations, because they decided to create the 20-minute cycle from landing to taking off 20 minutes. And it became the envy of the airline industry. Okay. Don't underestimate what people can bring to you as a solution. Engage. And that was one of the points. Get engaged and engage your forces. You will find the solution of your challenges lie between the walls of your organization. You just need to reach out for it.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more question. Let's see. Okay, I'm just trying to find a brief one. Dr. Alla, please elaborate the concept of corporate citizenship.
Oh, okay. This is part of what the Sterling organization is all about. Corporate citizenship is about what you give back to the community you're doing business with. What do you do with that? Everybody probably who's close to me and my business understands that 60% of my business is billable and 40% is non-billable.
Yeah.
Okay. And why 40% is non-billable? This is my corporate citizenship. This is what I gave to people as a way to say, you know, I am here, I live here, I enjoy life here with my family. This is the way to give back. So corporate citizenship for organization, and I know for a fact that most organizations around the globe have some sort of something in place that address community needs, that reach out to help the needy in the community. And one of the points I addressed earlier is, does your message stay between the walls of your organization, or does it go out to reach out to your communities, to your customers, and so forth?
I think the difference in where that comes in is whether or not they're using it as a tax write-off, or it's because it's true to the value system in that organization.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, that'll be our last question. We're just going to need to wrap up here. But this discussion today about leadership reminded me of something that I heard from you on my very first leadership class I sat with you on. You said, to maintain the mindset of a leader, pretend your kids are watching. Are you treating people the way you want them to see you behaving, and let your actions be the ones you would be proud of for your children to have watched? On that note, thank you, Alla, and thank you to everyone joining us today. Remember to stay safe, always be kind, and pull together. Anything is possible. Take care.
May I say something, okay, Dee, before we close?
Sure.
I do apologize. I really wanted to take the time to thank you very much, Dee, for taking this time out of your Sunday. It's your weekend with your kids to be here with me. I really, really appreciate that. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to my family who stood by me, to Sterling International team and what they are doing. Wonderful, wonderful people. And to our business partners and to our customers, thank you for taking us on as your consultant, as your business partner. Thank you for your rigorous demands and for high expectations. You made us a better organization for sure. You made us more resilient. And thank you all for those who took the time to be with us today. I love you all, and I wish you all the best. And I second Dee for staying safe. If you don't have to leave, don't leave. Stay connected. This is the time to connect with your loved ones. This is the time to rebuild those wounded relationships that are worth saving. This is the time to, they talk here about, what do you call it?
The social distancing?
Social distancing. Mm-hmm. I call that physical distancing. Yeah, you need to have the 6 feet or 2 meters physical distancing, but you really need to have the social closeness. This is the time that you connect with others and really paint a beautiful picture about the future. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 6 p.m. Cairo local time for the second session in our 5-part webinar series. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.